Before we get started, I wanted to invite you to check out my free masterclass where I teach you my 3-part formula for YouTube success. If you're ready to finally just get started on your YouTube dreams already, then this masterclass is for you. Click the link below or go to delusionmediamasterclass.com to register for free today. Hello and welcome to Creator Catalyst Conversations, where we do deep dives with your favorite YouTubers to learn their tips, tricks, and secrets for YouTube success. Today we're chatting with Kimbyrleighas, a true crime YouTuber with nearly 400,000 subscribers whose hour-plus long videos get hundreds of thousands of views. We'll talk all about her research process, how her channel and niche has changed over the years, hint she didn't always do true crime, and how to find your voice on YouTube. I loved having Kimber on the show, and I'm excited for you to hear all the knowledge that she has to share. This podcast is filmed live in front of the Catalyst Club audience. If you want to get in on future live recordings and exclusive Q&A that you won't hear anywhere else, you can join the club by signing up for my course, Catalyst Academy, at the link in the description. Now let's get into the interview. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I guess you didn't see the 3.5-hour video that just...
I did not.
I wouldn't expect you to have watched it, but yeah, that's probably the longest one I've ever done. And it was like all in one video instead of breaking it up.
Oh my gosh. Do you do multiple part videos often?
I don't anymore. I used to, but I'm really close with my community and I poll them all the time and they're like, you know what? No. So I'm like, okay, I won't then.
Right.
However, I do have some things coming up and one might be a series. So we'll see.
Oh, cool. Okay. Awesome. Well, we can get into that. So I wanted to start with, if you could just talk us through your YouTube journey, why you started and kind of what the trajectory has looked like.
Yeah. So I started my YouTube channel when I was in law school. I don't know if you know I went to law school, but I did.
I saw that in your like about section. I was like, wait, how have we not talked about that?
We didn't. I just, because I'm not like in the world anymore of it. So I was just like, that's her thing and this is my thing. But I did go to law school. I was really bored and I was in a new city. So I knew about YouTube, just randomly putting up videos of yourself and talking into a camera. And I actually had one of those like little digital cameras back then, the small ones, but I just sat on my couch and I was like, hey guys, I'm in law school. I'm bored. I'm a law student. And these were some of the things that were happening to me. So I just kind of put them out there. Like, people in my class that were mean or professors that were weird. I took a lot of those videos down, but that was my first time on YouTube. Is just me kind of being myself and not really having like a plan. And that was back in 2010, I think 2010. So I did that. And this is really pivotal to it because I left those videos up there, just the first few videos. And years later, now I'm, graduated from law school. I'm working in a corporate job. I moved across the country. I have a 1-year-old baby. Like a lot of things happened in my life that were, I guess, what we would categorize as like normal job hunting and like getting and stuff like that. And I moved from Florida to California for a job. I worked for Skechers. I'm sure people know what it is. It's a shoe company. So I worked with them and I loved my job. I was like very satisfied with it. But my daughter, being 3 years old, she was just getting into YouTube as kids were watching it on their iPads. So I'm one of those moms that allowed her to do YouTube Kids. And, we'd put it on and while she was eating in the morning. And I started realizing she was mimicking people in the mirror. She would say like, hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought that was really cute, but I was also concerned because I'm like, what? And I never went on YouTube unless I was looking for something like how to fix something. So I never knew there was this culture of people like us who were making a living, doing something they love. And it hit me all at once because when I started researching, like, what is a YouTube channel? Like I thought we all have YouTube channels, but I wasn't using mine the way that a creator was. But when I went on the back end, because my YouTube channel still existed, just like we all have like the creator studio and, your regular YouTube, I noticed that I had made 3 cents in revenue. And those videos were just out there for years and they weren't getting a lot of views. I think one of them had 400 and I was like, 400? Oh my gosh. Like I never looked. So when I saw that it was 3 cents, I was like, that's interesting because what if, and I started doing the math in my head, like, what if you had this many views? So I actually I was at work and I went right on to YouTube and I started searching like, what is this all about? How do you make money with YouTube? And luckily for me, I never had to do the requirements because I was already monetized. So they never unmonetize or like demonetize my channel. And I have always used my channel. I know a lot of people are like, should I make another channel and start over? But I've used the same channel from its birth. I've gone through many different genres and still remained on the same channel.
Yeah.
So I was just ready to go after that. I was like, tell me how to do this.
Totally. I feel like I got into that way too, where I was like, wait a minute, people are making really good money at this.
Yeah. Especially if you already like doing this and then you realize, oh, I liked that before and I didn't know that I could make money. So I figured it out.
And then you kind of went through a few different genres, right? Can you walk us through those?
Yes. So when I decided to, I started my daughter's channel first. She's actually going to be revamping it, but I started hers first and it started gaining a lot of traction. I think she got up to like 20,000 followers or something. And it was great. It was fun. But as many know, there's a lot of laws and regulations and things with children as far as like working and how long they can and all that stuff. So I just decided to do my own thing. And what I was doing was I would just randomly find something around the house to talk about because I didn't have enough money to be like buying things. So I'd be like, oh, look at this new thing I got, or maybe this will help moms. And I had no idea where I was going with any of it, but I just figured I'd start. And that's how the PopSockets journey began.
Talk about the PopSockets journey.
So just like I had said, I don't know where my phone is, like I had my phone with me one day and I was like, I still use PopSockets, by the way, but I was like, this is such a great grip. Like it's so great for your phone. I can be having my groceries and my daughter and I'm running around. And I was like, I'm going to tell people on the internet how much I love it. The cool thing was that PopSockets had just started. So I caught the wave like before it even became a wave. Like it was just starting to come up. And then at the same time, we were all doing Musical.ly. So before TikTok, there was Musical.ly. So I was on Musical.ly. I was a big Musical.ly creator and I was a lot younger back then. Okay. But I was like, because you can still see some of those videos on my TikTok. It's pretty hilarious. But I loved Musical.ly. I thought it was fun. And it was all lip syncing. It wasn't what it is now. But because you had to hold your phone in such a way to do Musical.ly, having a grip was just, it was a must. And people were starting to use phone grips more than just like the average everyday phone grip user, because we were content creators using it now. And I just caught the wave at the right exact time when everyone was looking for a really stylish grip that they could use on their phone, but also that would really hold, securely for TikTok or Musical.ly. So I put one video out. It was just me saying like, it's still on my channel. I'd never erase those, but it was just like, hey everyone, like check out my PopSockets, my favorite grip. And I woke up one morning, I just remember I was like, what? There were like 4,000 views on it. And I was like, what? Because like before that, and I don't know, like the average view I would get was like 70. And I did that for a long time. I mean, at the point I did the PopSockets, I think I had been doing it for almost a year.
Okay.
So, I mean, I had never really hit anything like that before.
Wow. Yeah. And then, because when I look at your channel now, it's like those videos have millions of views.
Yeah.
Because then you kind of jumped on the wave and just kind of kept making the PopSocket videos, right?
Yeah. So after that first video, I used to always, I was a big creator that would look to other creators, and I had like Roberto Blake and Daryl Eves and Sean Cannell, like all those people that we probably know of if you're in the space. And I was, looking for every little tidbit of information I could find on like what to do, like when it's starting to take off, what do you do? And at the time, the thought process was kind of what it is now, which is like niche down. However, PopSockets is not a niche. So I got kind of pigeonholed, but I didn't mind at the time because look, it got me over 100,000 subscribers. I got a silver play button out of it. I built an amazing community of phone fashion lovers. I even created a brand at the time, but it came from that one video. And what ended up happening is people just wanted to know more. And since PopSockets was so new, they didn't have a PR team. They didn't have people making content for them. So I was the only one doing it. So I was like, well, if they need to know how to take it off their phone, sure, you can go to the PopSockets website, but wouldn't it be better for me to just show you? So I started just doing all the how-tos, like how to take it off your phone, how to change it out, how to create your own design. And people thought I owned PopSockets. Like they really, they would write to my email, and I told PopSockets knows all this. Like I've sat down with them many times, and it's just funny. But people would be writing my email address, which was like something to do with my name. And they were like, my PopSocket is late. And I was like, you realize I'm not PopSocket. Like, I don't own the brand. I'm just a person. So that really started opening PopSockets' eyes up to, oh, there's this creator and she's kind of doing something we haven't seen before. Why is she doing this? And I was able to be like one of their first like affiliates. And you can do the math, but I sold a lot of phone grips. And I was making a very decent amount of money back then because the affiliate program was $1 per sale or something like that. It was massive. And so they changed that very soon afterward when they realized like, we can't do that. But they were in their infancy as well. So we kind of grew together. So it was fun.
Wow. Yeah. So talk about kind of the business you built out of that, because you had like a website and a brand and everything.
Yeah. So that would come, I would say that I was doing the phone fashion thing for at least a couple years. It might have been more, but up until 2020, I was still kind of in that niche, if you will, like the phone fashion niche. But I decided, because I was working with a lot of brands like 𝙂𝙀𝘼𝗼𝗍 and 𝙗𝗜𝙂 and 𝙗𝗜𝗏, and they were sending me big PR boxes for free. And then they would want me to obviously do an unboxing. And I was not savvy at the time. I didn't know I should be, maybe charging for my services. And I would just be so excited to get new stuff for my collection. And of course, they let me pick the ones I wanted. So for me, it was a big incentive. But looking back, I think we were all kind of new to this. I think brands were kind of new to it. So I don't blame anyone for kind of not maybe paying me for some of the effort I put in. But I was excited, and I started joining the affiliate programs for them, which I learned from PopSockets. And then I started realizing, well, if I can sell someone else's phone cases, why wouldn't I just have my own brand? Because I'm the one doing the work. Like, I mean, obviously they're doing the work of making their product, but as far as like promotion wise, I was using all of my networking and reach. So I decided to look into how to produce my own phone cases, and I went all out. I mean, I had like a full line of phone cases made by the same people who were making, Velvet Caviar. So it was a really cool experience to learn, behind the scenes of that. But through that, just to let you guys know, it's like, it wasn't my forte. I don't like retail. I'm not a customer service person at all. And I'm also not very good at like getting back to emails and stuff like that. So definitely had some complaints here and there, but I was trying. I was one person.
Yeah. How did you transition then from the PopSockets into true crime?
Well, okay. So going back to like before, so on the inside of everything, there were things that I always enjoyed, I guess you could say, and talked about with friends. And considering I went to law school, have a degree in psychology and sociology, went on to be a student in death investigation, those were just things that I liked that I didn't really, obviously with my classmates, it was a different story. Like, we have Facebook groups for death investigation, and we talk about autopsies, and I don't really say this on my channel, but I see a lot of that stuff on an everyday basis. I'm still in classes, so that's still something I'm pursuing because I don't like stopping anything. I like going all the way through with it, but I never really thought about doing anything that I love, like on the inside publicly. I always wanted to find, what's working, like, vlogging or beauty or whatever it was. So I was always talking about true crime, and I was always watching shows, and I was always having those discussions, but they were just private. And then it was around 2020, I think, my best friend and I, we just started to get, I don't know why, but we started getting obsessed with just going deep into the Chris Watts case. And this was something we did privately, and we watched over 4,000 hours of videos. We have a playlist, so we know exactly how long it was. But we were just really into understanding the minds of the people involved. And she's also like me, like very into the same thing. So we started a podcast back then that, it's not there anymore, but it was called Critique a Killer. Forgive me. Don't judge. Because it was with my best friend, and it wasn't supposed to be taken very seriously, but we were very respectful and sensitive. But we were basically saying, like, why are criminals so dumb sometimes? And with a legal background too, there were some things that I would talk about that, why certain things are done a certain way and the process and procedures. But we had that podcast, and that's kind of where my channel grew from. It was just something fun for my best friend and I to do. and it was during the pandemic. There wasn't a lot to do. We were, separated, and this was a great way for her and I to bond on the weekends. Like we would go live on a Friday on Stereo app. I don't know if you remember that. It's kind of like Clubhouse, but it was called Stereo, and it's a live podcasting app. I don't know if it still exists, but my podcast used to be there, and it was a live podcast, and then we would save it and then put it on Spotify.
Okay. And then how did you start doing solo videos shortly after that?
So first I put our old podcast episodes that did not have our face. It was just voiceover. I mean, like our voices from the podcast, and then I would put pictures on the screen.
Okay.
So I first started with a few of those. They're not on my channel anymore, but I put some of those up because I was testing the waters. I had been through a lot of different niches, and there had been some that I did okay with, but I feel like deep down inside when I did some soul searching, like it wasn't for me. And I didn't want to really jump in all the way unless I knew I could handle, everything that comes with this and making it like a real job. So yes, I started with the me and her. And then eventually I just told her like, hey, I'm going to try to do a video and see like what happens on my own.
Yeah. And then from there, you experienced a lot of growth when you switched niches, right?
Okay. So that's a little bit of a, I would say like misconception, but nothing negative. I'm just pointing out that like, I went back to my analytics because I have a lot of friends ask me like, how did you, succeed in doing this?
Yeah.
And my videos were getting nothing. They were getting like 100 views. I think the most I had was 500 in the first couple of months of doing it. So I wouldn't say that right away I was like, wow, this is really working. As a matter of fact, I quit. And I think like 3 or 4 videos in of just me, I was trying to find who I was. Because like you're your person in real life, but then what are you once you're on the screen? Like what do you want to be? And in some of them I was drinking wine, and other ones, and I didn't feel like it was me. I was like, that's not me. It's something's off. And I decided like maybe this isn't for me. Like maybe I don't know. And then, of course, I was getting the comments. They were constructive, but some of them were just like, these videos don't even add anything. Like somebody's already done this topic. And I didn't know that because I didn't know how to do research. I didn't know, I knew how to do research, but I didn't know how to research other creators, what they were doing, and find out, okay, maybe I should try to, do something different. So I did quit for like 2 months, I think. And in that time, I went on Reddit and I started to type in like, what do people hate about true crime YouTubers? What do people want to watch? And then I started getting an idea of like, okay, I think I am the kind of person that this vibes with. I think I do believe a lot of the things that people want because I'm a viewer. And I'm like, what do I want? And what I would always want is when I left from watching an Oxygen Network show, I would be like, but why did that happen? Like there were facts that didn't connect. And I would spend hours just like finding out who the victims were and like why they were in that place at that time. And that was my favorite thing. So I was like, maybe I should just pretend I'm talking to like a best friend and just go through the same research I would be doing anyway. And put that on the videos.
I love that. Yeah. I think the idea of as a consumer, often when we are creating content, we're creating content we would probably consume. Or if we're creating content we wouldn't consume, that often is a sign like maybe it's not the right thing for you. But I like that kind of thinking from the angle of, okay, what do I want? How do I feel as a viewer of this? I think it's really easy to get lost in the weeds of like your own creation and forget that there's a viewer on the other side.
Yeah. And before I went into true crime, I was in a couple other niches that I tried out, just different things I was interested in. And I think it's really good to have interest, and it's really good to develop something creative from them. But then I realized also, because I went through a pretty rough patch with trying to decide whether to continue with certain things. And it's hard because on one hand, the community can be rooting for you because they like your approach to something. But deep down inside, sometimes I was just like, I don't know if I can continue doing this because it doesn't sit right with me. And it's not really an insult to anyone else. It's just like, it is a job. And just like anyone would choose something to do, you sometimes need to try it. And then you're like, I really love the community. I really love the aspects, but I'm not in love with my job. Like I'm not what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so that was hard for me. And I did have to take a break and like really figure out what it was that was like bothering me about content and like what I did like about YouTube. So coming back, I felt like I was really in my element, and I knew that this is what I was like eating, breathing, all the time anyway.
How do you handle those comments that you get? Because like I've experienced similarly where your community can be great, but then you'll get comments of people critiquing, or like when I've tried to do huge cases, people are always like, you're not adding a single thing to this. This was a waste of my time. Why haven't, how do you handle comments like that or other mean comments?
And I try to put myself in other people's shoes as a viewer, because I'm a viewer. I love watching, what is it? What do I always watch? Like court TV. I am a huge, that's what I did all the way back in law school. Like when I was bored, I was watching like the 𝙗𝗬𝗧𝗖𝗟𝗔𝗜 case. I was watching like the not O.J. Simpson. That was a long time ago. I was watching Girl, what? I did watch that, but that's actually where my first interest started, was with my grandma with the O.J. Simpson case. But there were just cases going on, and court TV would be broadcasting, and I would sit in my living room like studying and also watching, because it had to do with what I was studying, and I thought it was, I thought it made sense. But I still do that till this day, and like my poor boyfriend has to listen to like full trials all day long, because that's what I'm listening to. So I try to put myself in the viewer's shoes, and I say, well, I'm a viewer too, and there are some videos I go to and I think certain things, like I wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, this doesn't add anything, because I see it from both lenses. Because I'm like, well, the creator has their own voice, so they're going to add something different regardless. But I also do stumble upon videos where I'm like, this has already been done totally the same way. Like we already listened to the same scanner thing. And like right now I'm following a case too, and I'm like, we already listened to all this. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, because that creator might have been working for 2 weeks and they just got their video out. So maybe their video would have been first had they not wanted to perfect it or something. So, but how do I deal with it? Those are the things I think about. Like, well, they don't know what this process is like. And, I know why I'm doing certain things, and I know what my intentions are. So I try to keep that in the forefront, but I also hide people's comments, because I also think it doesn't really foster a healthy community if there's like insults going around. And also, I don't know if you have this on your channel, but YouTube, I think they're rolling it out to more people, but you can put your own community guidelines in effect. So I have my own community guidelines, so I can report channels that are not following my specific community guidelines. And the first time you ever comment, my community guidelines will come up, and it just talks about like, let's not talk about physical appearance of people, things that they can't help, but that's really inappropriate. Keep it on the content. So the content's what's the most important, and I didn't want it to like veer in weird directions.
Yeah, that's really smart. I haven't seen that. That's cool that they're kind of letting you have a little bit more control, because I've seen that you can kind of add filters for certain words if you don't want them, but that's cool that you have even more control than that.
It drops down right near your comment section, and it'll say like Kimbyrleighas community guidelines, and then there's like 3 you can make yourself, and you write them yourself. Cool. They have to approve them, but you get with it, you kind of see the guidelines and understand what you can write.
Yeah, that's really cool. So on that note of like seeing other creators making content and feeling like they're not really adding, how do you differentiate yourself from all the other people making true crime content, even about the same stories that you're talking about?
So I have some advice on that, because I have friends who are trying to do their YouTube channels too. And I love talking for hours, even though I shouldn't, about all things, YouTube related. I love diving into analytics, but what I've learned, and this is, it's in different stages. So we're all growing at our pace, and there's different stages to being a YouTuber. And so in the beginning, I think it's vital, not even just important, but like it's a must that you are looking to find other channels that you relate to. So I found Sherilyn Dale when I first started really looking into YouTube. I was like, okay, who's doing true crime that's like a newer person, like not somebody that's really big, but like a person I can relate to. And so I saw her channel and I was like, okay, I can see this is what people are vibing with. I can see myself adding my version of what people are liking nowadays. And this was like 3 years ago, I think. But I think it's vital to go and look and find other channels that you're resonating with that are in your niche, and really look at the videos they were doing, what was popular. It's a weird thing, because in one hand, I think that it's completely appropriate to do the same exact cases that everybody else has done. On the other hand, I think that if you're using that person's video as your research and you're not really, developing it yourself and coming up with a different way to tell it or a different important aspect to it, then, let the viewers be the guide. Like if they don't like it, they don't like it. If they love it, great. So there's always going to be an audience for it. But for me, as I was going through the stages, I don't watch true crime YouTubers now like I did before. One, I don't have time to do it. I watch my friends if they have a new video. But the other reason why is because once you have your identity and like, this is what I'm doing, it's super easy to get thrown off your game because someone new is on the scene and, they're doing something different. That's great. But just don't let it derail you, because guess what? You're your own person. And like, if you try to do what they're doing, they're already doing it that way. So I feel like let them, have their own style and try to focus on like what makes you unique. So for me, I didn't really know what was going to make me unique in the beginning. I just was creating from my perspective. And then that's when people were saying like, oh, I really like when you go really in depth on things, like really detailed. Like they wanted to know, they love hearing about like, when was her birthday? What was her favorite color? Why did she go to this school? Like those little details that some channels don't care about, that's fine. I love that. And so I started realizing like, wait a minute, there are other people who kind of wonder things like me. So that's kind of, I think, one of my differentiating factors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great, like when I do my research for my videos, I specifically don't watch other YouTubers who have made videos about the same topic because I want to make sure that I'm really, because it really does psych you out when you start seeing and start thinking like, oh my God, they did that. It looks so much better than what I can do. Or they're really in depth. I can never get, like, I start getting in my own head. So I fully avoid, but it is important to know what's out there.
It is. I think it's very important. And then I was telling a friend, I was like, I can't watch because I end up watching for way too long and finding out like, oh, well, they're doing this. Maybe should I do that? And I had no plans to do that. And so I'm like, Kimber, no, like you got to stay in your own lane. And, I can get new ideas from my own, my own journey. But I also don't think there's anything wrong with being inspired by other creators and saying, you know what, I love whatever that is. Like, I love their set. I love their vibe. I love the way they dress. I love the way they tell a story. And then using that to learn how to do it. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. What is your process? So when you are doing your research and getting ready, what's your process like in the research stage and then in the filming and editing stage as well?
So it's changed a lot from the beginning. You just start to learn your own processes and realize like, okay, this doesn't work for me. And I'm very, very bad at organizing. I don't have anything. Like I have my brain. That's all. So I don't write anything down. I don't put anything on notes. It's a wonder I make it to these things on time. But my boyfriend helps a lot because he does do like little invitations and stuff on my phone. But I have my phone on Do Not Disturb all day. Like I never take calls. I never look at it because it distracts me. And then I go on a rabbit hole down this one thing and then I don't work. But my process has changed a lot from the beginning. In the beginning, I would maybe like watch a show. Like maybe I'd watch like a Oxygen Network show or something. And then I'd like make notes on everything that happened. And then I would go and maybe look at Wikipedia, just whatever is available. And nowadays, like it's a totally different process. And today I'm gearing up to start that process. So every week it kind of like starts over. And I kid you not, I'm a weekly creator. So nothing is created yet for not this week, but next week. So 1 week ahead. But like I'm going to start writing today. And what I normally do is I start putting in things that I would like to know. Like, I don't know what one could be, but like since the Idaho University murders happened, I would maybe put in, this is before, like months ago, I would put in other college, tragedies, and then I would start researching. And then something would catch my eye. And when that case would catch my eye, I would see if anyone's doing it on YouTube, because that's the first thing I kind of, if everybody's done it, it's like, exactly. Yeah. It's like, how much do I want to spend on it? And not that I won't, because I just did the Coleman murders and that's been done many times. But sometimes you just find something new to talk about. But that's where I start. And then my research just goes on forever. Like as far as I'm going, I read books. I'm reading a book right now for my next case. I'll do it on like Kindle Cloud Reader and I'll just read it all day. And then I just sit down and I use Dynalist, which is kind of like my hidden secret, I guess, of how I keep everything together. And it's like dynalist.io, I think.
Okay.
But it's a note-taking and sort of like bullet pointing system. I don't know if you pay for it or not. I can't remember because I've had it so long. But the other thing you can do in there, because people ask me, like, how did you do the Chandler Halderson like trial? Like, how did you do 3 videos and keep all the dates correct? And that's how I did it. Is I just would take what I was going to do, like a phrase of what happened on Saturday the 21st, whatever, put it in there, and then I would hashtag Saturday the 21st. And so all of those hashtags, they stay together. So then at the end, when you're putting together your script, I go in timeline order. So I would go in order and I would say, I need everything to happen on Saturday the 21st. So I would click that hashtag and everything's going to come out that was on the 21st. So that's how I organize when I'm writing my script, because the first few days are just note taking. It's just very quick notes, like this happened, date, this happened, time. And then I hashtag them in all different orders, like autopsy, police investigation, just whatever it is, interrogation notes. So that way it's a big time saver.
Yeah. That's a hot tip. Dynalist, is it like DYNA?
Yep.
Okay.
Dynalist. Yep. And you know what? There might be a better one out there, but I like this one and it's what I got used to. So it's what I use and it's amazing.
Yeah. That's great. Do you have a full script that you are reading off of for your videos?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Do you use a teleprompter?
I use a teleprompter.
Okay. How many pages is a script for an hour or 2 long video?
An hour is 12,000 words.
Wow.
About 12,000 words. And then, go from there. Like I think the last one I did was 22,000 words I recorded like a couple days ago for this week's video. I truly promise I'm trying to do shorter ones. Like I do have, a portion of my community that's like, we love the long ones. And I want to do like 1 long one a month and try to do like 3-hour ones. So like hour and then 1 like 2.5-hour deep dive. But it's hard because there's so much information to be had. And I don't know how to leave it out. Cause I'm like, if this was my loved one, would I leave that out? And I struggle with that. So I don't, I just put it in.
Yeah. How do you handle kind of the politics of being in the true crime genre, of people kind of objecting to telling that person's story, or, there's a lot of people who are critical of the genre.
Yeah, this is a hard one because I'm also very sensitive to like, I don't like to imagine it, but I'm like, okay, what if something like this happened to me in my immediate family? Like, what would I think? And I don't know, because we don't know. We don't know what we would feel like in those situations. But I would like to believe, this is just, I guess, my stance right now, I would like to believe that there's a lot of public desire, not just like for entertainment purposes, but public awareness, reasons why we should do this, and maybe not that. I definitely get worried that people will think I'm doing it for, to hurt anyone or be offensive, and I'm not. But there's always going to be that possibility that there's a family that doesn't like the video up there. However, I mean, now we're getting into like legal versus moral or ethical, and that's something that I think we need to just have and see when you cross that bridge. I've had many families reach out to me and I always get super nervous right when I see their message, because I'm like, they're going to hate me and they're going to tell me to take the video down. And by all means, if it was a family that came and was like, we absolutely just cannot have this up, I would talk to them about it and hope that we're on the same page, because I feel like with my content, I truly get to know the person and I'm honoring them. Like my whole video is mostly about, and people get mad about it, but it's like people that don't like my channel, I would say, they think I focus way too much on the victim. Like, come on, get to the story. And I'm like, what do you mean, get to their death? Like, what am I getting to? Because don't you want to know? Like, don't you want to know about this person? And I understand it's not everyone's thing. They sometimes just want to know what happened, which is fine. But I think for me, I've had families reach out, and thankfully nobody has ever said they were mad at me or wanted to take it down. It was actually the opposite. I had one person whose father was murdered by his mother. He was 10 years old at the time. He found me on Twitter. I was so scared. I was shaking. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I did something wrong. And we just had such an amazing conversation for like 2 hours on Zoom, where he was just like, it made me cry. I think he was crying. Like he's our age now, like he's my age now. And this happened a long time ago. And he was just like, even the thumbnail, I was like, ooh, is he going to get mad? Because the title and the thumbnail were like, I think it was like torso found in the container. And I'm like, oh God, this is this guy's dad. Like what?
Yeah.
But ultimately, he was so excited that somebody took the time to talk about his dad. Like a lot of these videos talk about the killer and like what his mom did and like getting into her mind. And he was just very thankful. And I hope that that's how families see my content.
Yeah. How do you pick your stories? What stories are you drawn to? You know, I feel like there's so many.
I would like to be one of those people that say like, I don't use my own relatability, I guess you can say, but I can't take myself out of the equation as much as I don't like talk about personal things very much on my channel and stuff like that. I am drawn to what my soul or like my mind or like whatever it is drawn to in that moment. And a lot of times what I end up finding out is this person has some kind of something in common with me, whether it's like, it could have been their favorite color. I could see somebody say like, orange is my favorite color. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this case. Like, that sounds cheesy, but it's like, I'll just feel a connection and I'll want to know more about the person. And then that's where I make my decisions. It has nothing to do with, you know, like what should I do next as in like a strategy. However, I do try to see what is going on in the media as far as like current event true crime, which I don't do. So I only do solved. So I'll say like, well, a lot of people are interested in university murders because this is what's happening. So why don't we shed some light on the people who came before? And a lot of the same things happen to them. And like, let's look at that because, you know, maybe we can learn something about this case that's coming up.
So you said you don't really write things down. Do you have like any sort of, do you have like planned out content? Do you have a content calendar or anything that you have like that?
Yes. So even though I don't have anything written down, I do have somebody that helps me. I hired someone, and this is why I say you're going on a journey here. And I want to scale, meaning like I'm trying to do a podcast channel and I'm trying to have guests on to come on and talk about true crime. And I'm going to events, like doing all these different things that I want to do. But I also don't want my content to suffer because I think just putting videos out for the sake of putting them out is just not where I want to be. So I hired an assistant. I think she might be with me for a year now, but pretty long time now. And we just clicked. I tried so many people. I've interviewed people in person here. It's just a very hard person to find that like thinks like you and gets it. And she's also from Florida and I'm from Florida. So, you know, it's just like little things like that we had in common. And she helps me to kind of like present me with cases and say, she knows what kind of cases that I gravitate toward. So she'll make a list and I'll go through each one of them and I'll say like, no, this doesn't really work out, but like, I'm kind of interested in this one. And then I'll dive into that one a little bit more. So we do have a going list like all the time. And I kind of just look at that list and she goes and scopes things out that she thinks I might be interested in. And then sometimes, like I told you, like I find things by looking something up I'm interested in. So it's either or.
And so you're in your studio right now. Can you talk about your space and your filming?
Yeah. So I love my space. This is like my little sanctuary. It's actually not a huge room, but it looks size.
Huge.
It's like a bedroom. Like it's a bedroom size room or like a normal, not like a main bedroom room, but it's just a one room with a bathroom and a door. Like this is basically where I am. But this room is in a big studio, like sound stage, other rooms, podcast room, YouTuber room. I'm just like in one little corner of the entire studio, and my boyfriend owns the studio. And we basically are committed to helping other creators start this whole process. So we have everything that they need to just turnkey and come in here and do it. But cool. This one was built for me. So, you know, this one I rent from the studio. So that's also something that we had. Not anymore because the rooms are totally rented, but this room was for rent, and that's how this whole journey kind of started. But this room was transformed. I had some ideas. I got my ideas from a tattoo parlor in Salem, Massachusetts, where my dad is from. And I just was like, this is my space. Like I wanted my whole house to look like this tattoo parlor. So this is kind of where the inspiration came from.
I love it. And then once you're done filming and you're in your editing process, I know you get meticulous with the editing sometimes. What's your editing process like? How do you determine what makes a great video?
Yes. I think you and I talked about that because you were talking about, I think this might have been, because so I do have editors now in the process. Like my management company has provided me with an editing team. In the beginning, that was really difficult for me. It's just hard to know, like, what, this sounds funny, but like what other people's intentions are. Like, I don't know, like how they would view me, or I don't know. I just would get very scared of my content being in someone else's hands because I control my content and I know where it is and know where it goes, and nobody can chop it up and put a whole bunch of weird pieces together of me saying something I didn't say, just, but luckily they have like all the legalities like figured out, and all this stuff is in a contract, and they can't do that kind of stuff. But it was hard for me to let go of my creative process too. But what I did is I recorded a video for them of me editing and how I edit and like how I like it to flow. And I'm doing a voiceover for them. So I'm like, okay, you see how it could cut off here? I don't like that. That's a jump cut. I want to pause. So I had to basically make this like 20-minute video showing them how to edit my stuff. And I still re-edit it. Like when it comes back to me on a Wednesday. So my process is like, I start writing, I send it in, I film on the weekends, send it in on Monday to the editors, and then I get it back on Wednesday. So I get it back the day before it goes live. So that whole day I'm like sitting on my butt, which I do way too much of, and I'm just listening to it like a viewer. So I watch that same 3-hour video that everybody else is watching. I watch that thing and I'm like, okay, is there anything in here that just like doesn't flow, stuff like that. So that's kind of my process right now.
What makes a good flow? What makes a YouTube video flow well for you?
For me, well, having a teleprompter, which I did from the beginning. I looked into having a teleprompter back when I did like my very first YouTube videos. I never really considered it. I actually would make fun of people because I never did scripts. So I'd be like, you need a teleprompter. Like you can't just think of it in your head. But now I realize like I'm wrong. Definitely stay on track and makes the editing process a lot smoother if you're not making mistakes, because I write my script. I put my script inside my phone. I have Siri read me my script, and I listen to the way that it sounds. And if there's things in there that I'm like, what? Like who? I'm getting all confused. I like go back and I'm like, okay, we really need to figure out these characters and like who they are. And I listen to it by the pool, and I just like, that's like my only little time where I'm just, sitting and hanging out. But I listen to it on my headphones, and then I'll go back to my writing and I will put it in my teleprompter. And that way, when I'm reading it, I've already heard it. I've already read through it. I know the cadence of what I want to say. And Siri helps me with that part, I guess. And then when I'm in my set, my teleprompter's in front of me right here. I'm staring at it right now. And I actually use a really old school one that people would probably make fun of me for, because my boyfriend has a real like expensive one that he uses for clients, and it'll stop and start as you talk. Okay, I don't have that one. So I don't have that one. That's not mine. But I have the Parrot teleprompter. It's super old. I don't even know if they sell the same version. And it's your phone. So your phone, which is great because I get distracted by my phone. So my phone is not near me when I'm filming. So it's on the teleprompter, and the script comes up on your phone. I was just going to show you, but the script comes up on your phone, and then it mirrors it and you can read it. So,
yeah, I do something similar. I haven't heard of Parrot, but I have, a Smart Pro app that I reflect on the teleprompter.
Probably way better than what I have going on, because mine, it's like, I'll show you what it looks like, on my phone.
No, that's exactly what mine looks like.
Yeah. And it's great. And now, obviously, we all make mistakes anyway, because I'll cough or like, something will happen. But at least that's easy to edit out, rather than you're not in a train of thought that's like congruent to like what you were talking about before, and you go on a tangent.
Speaking of like teleprompters and Siri and stuff, do you have any other tools, AI, or I know we talked about Dynalist, any other tools that you recommend?
Let me think. So I do use Siri and Dynalist, and I'm trying to think of my teleprompter. Well, I use like Scribed and things like that, but that's more like places online that I get information from. Like I'll use Scribed. I have a membership to that. And then of course like Photoshop for my thumbnails, which I think is a must, but people can use different ones. And we just use Final Cut Pro, but there's Premiere, which is way better. But no, not necessarily any other apps or anything.
Yeah. Keep it simple. If you could give one piece of advice to someone that's looking to start on YouTube, what would that be?
I think that it's never too late, and I don't think YouTube is going anywhere. So if you're thinking, oh, I've already missed the boat, or, you know, I can't do this right now, or I'm too old, or whatever the excuses are, I think it's fine. You can start. I would recommend, you know, I think the biggest thing I would recommend is like the content you start to do. What I always see does well is like you have a passion for it, you're an expert of some kind. Doesn't mean you know everything, but like maybe you went to school in that subject, or maybe you have a past that's correlating with it. But I think that passion, expertise, those are the two first things that I think goes into like longevity. And then just the tools. And now we have things like Affirm and Afterpay. So that's how I got my stuff. You know, like I couldn't afford like a really good camera. So those things I use to try to get started.
Yeah. So you're able to kind of get the equipment, pay for it as you can, but just get started.
I would get better equipment from the start. I mean,
really?
It's just like, yeah. Because I mean, going back, I'm looking at like when I started my true crime journey, I already had like a pretty decent camera, microphone. Now I have like, you know, you're on your journey, you have better things. But I did that. I just did like Affirm on like whatever I think it was Focus Camera has a good one. But I got my camera, my lens, my lights. And then we're doing the same thing with my podcast. We're starting. We had to get another camera. Like we can't move my camera because it's like, yeah. So I had to do that all over again. So I did the same thing, and it's really good. I think starting out with like a good enough camera where you can compete with the quality. It doesn't have to be crazy, but just, you know, you're not in and out of focus or really bad coloring or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a podcast. What projects are you working on right now? What's next for you?
I feel like I have so many projects, and I'm excited, but I'm torn, like very thin right now. But I have my main channel, of course, and then I wanted to do a podcast because I love the conversational aspect that I used to have with my best friend, and I really don't have that. I just sit in a room and I just talk at the camera. So I'm starting a podcast. The channel is already up there. It's called 𝙗𝙀𝘼𝙍, and it's going to be a podcast video, and it's going to launch. You're only going to hear this here on Halloween.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I haven't told anybody about when, but I'm not going to like announce that it's going to be then, but that's when it's going to launch. And so the first video will go out then. We might have a teaser video around CrimeCon. Like when CrimeCon happens, I'll be there. So I think we'll do a teaser so that people can get a kind of an idea of what the set looks like in there. And it's modeled after my bedroom as a teenager in the 90s.
Cool.
So it's kind of like you're just sitting with a best friend and hanging out.
Is it a true crime podcast?
It is. It's a true crime podcast. And the name 𝙗𝙀𝘼𝙍 is from like two words, dark and declivity. So it's just like the darkness of the mind and where it starts to just go down that slope. So these cases are going to be focusing more on a little worse than what I do on my channel, meaning, you know, we're going to dive into like some very heinous kind of crime. I mean, they're all bad, but more of like the mind and like what's going on and like how weird is this? And then we'll just talk about it.
I love that. Cool. Well, thank you for being here. This has been such a fun conversation. This was so fun.
I know. I love talking and like getting on here with someone else. It's fun.
Right? Yeah, I like that too. And it's cool to hear your process, because I know like when we met, we were like on this influencer weekend, and you had like your computer and you were sitting there just like editing, and you were so like meticulous.
Right. I do remember that. Yeah, that's kind of my personality, but that's actually how my boyfriend and I met, is from me being at a party and editing. And he was like, what is this girl doing? And we're also starting our own little vlogging channel, and everyone's so excited about it. But because I don't really get personal on my channel, we're starting a channel. We already started it. It's called like Actually Us, from our tattoos. We have tattoos that says it somewhere. But yeah, we started that. It probably won't launch for like a couple months, but it's just somewhere to remember our journey and our relationship.
I love that. Thanks again for being here. This was so fun and insightful. You gave us some good knowledge nuggets.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, you can get in on the live Q&A sessions with everyone that I interview by joining the Catalyst Club. And the only way you can join the Catalyst Club is by joining Catalyst Academy, my course, linked in the description. Or check out a number of my free resources, which are also linked in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.